President Biden is facing backlash after announcing a new immigration policy. His order authorizes U.S. immigration officials at the southern border to deport large numbers of migrants without processing their asylum claims. The new policy went into effect yesterday morning and is leading to some confusion, especially among migrants. Our Lilia Luciano spoke with an aid worker at the border.
We don't 100% understand it. How could they possibly understand what's going on? They probably haven't even heard of it. There's not like there's radio or TV out here, and the way they've been traveling, they're not going to know.
All right, so Lilia is in Arizona near the border with Mexico, joining us now to talk a little bit more about this. All right, Lilia, I can understand why there might be confusion. I mean, we heard about the change in policy and then almost immediately it was implemented. Can you just talk to me about how the border policy changes are being communicated to the people who are seeking asylum?
Anne-Marie, that's such a good question. The Biden administration has done a great deal of work to try and address the root causes of migration. There have been hundreds of millions of dollars spent in the region to make sure that the countries where people migrate from and what they call host countries, the countries in between, the countries of transit, are equipped with humanitarian aid, are equipped with the tools, and also with the offices where people can go seek asylum. Since last year, the Biden administration launched what are called safe mobility offices. And these are places where you can go and get information and learn about the CBP-1 app and other ways that people would have access to seeking asylum in the U.S. And the goal is for people to do that in some of these countries, which include Guatemala, Costa Rica, Colombia, and not have to take that dangerous path, not have to risk their lives, not have to go through Central America and Mexico and land in the hands of smugglers. But the amount of people, it's only been like 21,000 people who've been able to get asylum in that way. And we're dealing with thousands of people who are crossing every day. It's very hard to compete with the information that reaches migrants through smugglers. Of course, the media in Latin America, I mean, I have been doing a lot of live shots for our partners in Latin America. The media in Latin America sends reporters. You have people trying to inform on the issues at the border, but the nuances, those intricacies, the actual paths that people have available, which are very narrow to ask for asylum, it's very hard to compete with the misinformation that's out there from smugglers who have a very well-oiled business running all the way from, Venezuela to here.
Yeah, I bet. A profitable business. So, they're going to pivot with every change that's made along the border. You actually spoke to migrants who had crossed the border. What are some of the stories that you heard from them?
That's always the hard part. You hear stories of people in the most desperate conditions. And some of what I heard, I talked to a group of men who had come from, and women, from the Dominican Republic. They were talking to me about conditions there, their living conditions. They were not the people who would be able to get asylum. They are what some call economic migrants, people who need to work, who are not getting work opportunities in their countries, who might have family members here, but they might not be able to claim them. And so, that these people, the only way that they're going to try and cross is to come illegally and to try to avoid the Border Patrol. The ones that I met were waiting for the Border Patrol. What does that mean? They're going to be deported. They're going to be instantly deported. They have been traveling for a month. I met a man from Mexico who had been in the U.S. He spoke English, perfect English, had been in the U.S. for 15 years, had to come back to Mexico. He was undocumented at the time. He had been working in the U.S. and he came in as a kid. And he has spent the last 6 years doing what he says is trying the quote-unquote legal way, or the right way, is what he told me. Here's a little bit more of his story. What's your plan?
My plan is to go and get an asylum and bring my kids, because my kids are Americans.
Why did you decide to leave Mexico and come back to the U.S.?
Because there's a very, very bad situation over there with the cartels and whatnot.
You know, this is somebody who says, I feel American. My kids are American. They were born in the U.S., but he brought them with him when he had to come because his mother was ill. He tried to stay in Mexico, work, establish his family there, and then he started facing the violence in the state that he's fleeing in Mexico. So he's hoping that he'll get asylum, but he says, I've been spending 6 years trying the right way, trying to apply for, make my case to stay in the U.S. That is what I consider as my country. And that's what so many people, who for instance, DACA recipients, that's the issue they face. They can't leave the country. They're never going to be able to come back, and they consider this, the U.S., their country.
Lilia, thank you very much.